It all kicks off in a hospital room, where our guy Goko jolts awake, gasping for air with his head all wrapped up. He keeps panting into the pillow, totally clueless about what's going on. With that, the kid glances out the window, watching the calm birds outside. Goko takes in the modern city skyline, packed with massive glass skyscrapers. Then, his hands start to tremble as he tries to process where in the world he's ended up. The warrior stays silent for a moment, completely baffled by the bizarre surroundings. Then, he catches his reflection in the blank TV screen and decides to investigate. Holding a mirror, the MC checks out his bandaged face and wonders who he is. But suddenly, his eye starts to throb with some serious pain. Meanwhile, the sound of footsteps echoes down the hall, getting closer to his room. A nurse calmly opens the door to check on the patient's condition. However, the woman finds the hospital bed completely empty and a total mess. She's surprised and steps into the room to figure out where he vanished. The staffer doesn't notice that the patient is hiding on the ceiling, right above the door. Gripping a pen like a weapon, Goko sizes up the place from above and wonders where he is. Ready to strike, Goko keeps the pen aimed at the nurse's neck. The MC tries to rack his brain to remember what happened to him. Just then, a flash zips through his mind, bringing back disturbing visions from the past. The story rewinds 500 years, revealing a figure sprinting through the mountains. The warrior tears through the forest at an insane speed, not even thinking about stopping. With his teeth clenched in tension, he pushes his own body to its absolute limit. His muscles even start to pop from the intense pressure of the over-the-top effort. The impact of his high-speed run causes the fibers in his body to start tearing. That's the ninja Goko in the past, mentally pleading for his master to be okay. Even while coughing up pure blood along the way, he refuses to slow down. A terrifying chill washes over Goko's body as he pushes forward. In the distance, he spots the Hono-G temple being completely swallowed by a massive fire. The red flames destroy the wooden structures without any mercy. The young man freezes as he sees the catastrophic scene in front of him, totally in shock. But suddenly, a volley of arrows cuts through the air, heading his way to take him out. Desperate, Goko screams for his master amidst the relentless explosions. As soon as he realizes the danger Nobunaga is in, the ninja completely loses it. A glowing aura envelopes his body as he activates his secret ability. Using this hidden power, the warrior forcefully reconnects his muscle fibers. With his body restored, he charges at the enemies and slices them up without a second thought. However, an enemy warrior blocks his path in the middle of the intense flames. The intruder immediately recognizes Goko as Lord Nobunaga's personal guard. The warrior glares at him with hatred, ready to plow through this obstacle. The opponent is Ryuga, the infamous slayer of 999 men. Wasting no time on small talk, Goko shoots like a lightning bolt toward Ryuga. Ryuga scoffs, saying it's rare for a ninja to show his face, and that he'd love to slice it up. With that, Ryuga gets into an eye stance, preparing an incredibly fast strike. The slash unleashed from this position tears through the air at a ridiculous speed. But Goko isn't fazed and swiftly slides under the deadly blade. In a brutal move, our MC shatters his opponent's sword in an instant. Ryuga's so-called sound barrier speed looks like a turtle to Goko's eyes. Utterly shocked, Ryuga can barely believe his strike was crushed with bare hands. He then notices the glowing energy tattoos appearing on Goko's face. Before he can react, Ryuga takes a blow to the face, discovering a terrifying power. That absurd level of power radiates the true essence of a legendary ninja. Using all his strength, Goko unleashes his ultimate combat art all at once, before Ryuga's lifeless body even hits the destroyed courtyard floor. With that, the MC pushes deep into the temple's burning ruins. However, the scene he finds inside is completely heartbreaking. Lord Nobunaga is riddled with arrows like a porcupine, lifeless. Goko freezes in place, feeling his world crumble at the sight of this painful tragedy. Suddenly, a sneak attack comes from behind, silently cutting through the air. Consumed by grief, the ninja lets out a deafening scream, calling for Nobunaga. He senses a sinister presence standing right next to his master's body. It's a warrior wearing ninja armor and a one-eyed mask. Overflowing with hatred, Goko curses him and demands to know who the heck this filthy intruder is. Without waiting for an answer, our guy charges forward in a fury to slice the enemy up. The two begin a brutal exchange of blows amidst the crumbling ruins. The impact of their blades creates intense sparks with each violent, heavy collision. Each of the ninja's desperate attacks aims to completely destroy his adversary. His strikes are so powerful they could easily slice through pure steel. Next, he unleashes a sequence of heavy, energy-charged punches. The force of his kicks could shatter solid rocks in the blink of an eye. But to his dismay, the intruder blocks his powerful attack with just one hand. The MC grunts in frustration, seeing his strength stopped so effortlessly. In a swift move, he tries to rip off his opponent's mask, wanting to see his face. With the impact, Goko does a backflip, gaining distance from the danger. He lands firmly on the destroyed ground, keeping his eyes locked on the threat. The intruder also slides back, keeping his defensive posture intact. Suddenly, the young ninja is startled when he notices something about the retreating opponent. The enemy suddenly unfurls a mystical scroll covered in strange symbols. Goko is completely surprised, having no idea what that paper object is. The intruder performs a sequence of hand seals, invoking a technique. A dark energy explodes around him, forming the frightening symbol of an eye. He continues activating the power, rapidly changing his hand gestures. Then, the opponent's hand glows with an intense purplish power, focused on a single point. Suddenly, a gigantic pillar of blue lightning crashes down from the sky, tearing through everything around it. The brutal impact of this lightning explosion sends Goko flying. Shielding his face with his arms, the ninja tries to withstand the attack's absurd force. However, when the dust settles, he realizes the coward simply fled the scene. Furious, our MC screams at the top of his lungs, telling the intruder to show himself and fight. He demands to know where that scumbag went in the middle of this fiery inferno. But a weak voice calls out to Goko, cutting through all the tension of that desperate moment. It's Lord Nobunaga, using his last bit of strength to ask the ninja not to go after him. The young man runs desperately to his master, hearing that the intruder was far too skilled. Nobunaga deduces that the enemy used a teleportation technique and vanished for good. With tears in his eyes, Goko tightly holds his fallen master's bloody hand. The leader confesses that he's fading, leaving the MC in total despair. Murmuring softly, the Lord laments how frustrating all of this is. He reveals that he could already see a peaceful world, completely free of conflict. Slowly closing his eyes, Nobunaga repeats the word peace as his final wish. The Lord's spirit thanks him for all the support the ninja gave during their journey. He says his biggest dream was to show that peaceful world to the warrior, too. Back in cruel reality, Goko stares at his leader's lifeless body on the flaming ground. The vision of his late master still burns brightly in the shattered young man's mind. Without hesitation, the ninja prepares his own blades, determined to follow the same path. Crying uncontrollably, our MC screams his master's name one last time. The leader's pale face rests peacefully amidst all the violent destruction. With that, Goko plunges his own blade into his body without mercy to end the pain. This extreme act is the final sacrifice to accompany his lord in eternal rest. He accepts that this is the only possible fate for a ninja loyal to his master. Bleeding profusely, the young man wonders if such a thing as peace truly exists in the world. Having lived in a constant age of war, he had never seen a single shred of calm. However, the warrior firmly believes in it because his lord was able to see the future. So he decides to blindly trust in that peaceful vision before departing from this world. Enveloped by a blue aura, Goko asks to be reincarnated in era without wars. The fatal blow finally tears through his insides, ending his life right then and there. The story jumps forward 500 years, showing the facade of a large hospital. In a doctor's office, the physician calmly asks the patient to repeat his name and age. Our MC replies that his name is Hibari and he's a 17-year-old student. The professional reviews the tests and confirms that the young man can be discharged. Hibari listens in silence as the doctor praises his near-miraculous recovery. Out on the street, the doctor says goodbye, advising the student not to push his body too hard. At that moment, he remembers the tense instant when he almost took out the nurse. With some internal relief, the young ninja is thankful he didn't do anything stupid. Walking calmly through the modern streets, he reflects on this bizarre situation. The ancient warrior's soul has taken over this body that was in a deep coma. The painful memory of his master passing away in the burning temple still haunts him. He perfectly remembers the brutal blow he dealt to his own abdomen to end it all. Looking at his own hands, the young man confesses he doesn't understand how he got this new life. The city's clear blue sky brings a strange feeling to the former warrior. He calmly watches little kids happily playing with a dog on the sidewalk. The innocence of that common street scene captures our MC's curious attention. With a serene expression, Hibari finally understands that this is true peace. Feeling the breeze, he realizes that living in the era his lord dreamed of isn't so bad. But the comfort soon fades as he tries to get used to these very different clothes. Complaining about the tight uniform, he remembers he has to attend something called high school. Suddenly, a group of sketchy-looking thugs spots the student in the middle of the street. The gang's beefy leader approaches, mocking the fact that he didn't bite the dust. Cold as ice, the ninja analyzes the guy, noticing a complete lack of killing intent. The giant keeps walking toward him without showing any real hostility. Sizing up the situation, the warrior instantly deduces that this troublemaker is a friend. The guy reaches him, rubbing our MC's head and demanding a more cheerful greeting. Sifting through scattered memories, the young man tries to confirm if the big guy's name is Kumazawa. Keeping a serious posture, he greets the big dude using the newly remembered name. The guy loves the obedient attitude and jokes that it put him in a really good mood. He comments in a menacing tone that the knock on the head changed the kid's personality. Grabbing Hibari's neck, the guy suggests they get back to enjoying school life together. The tight grip doesn't intimidate the ninja, who just stares back with unshackable calm. Our MC focuses only on the idea that this school thing is a place for fun. In his past life during the Warring States period, he never even considered feeling any joy. Determined to embrace this new chance, he agrees that he's looking forward to this fun. The troublemaker gets hyped by the answer and calls for everyone to head to their usual spot. Being dragged along by the group, the young man realizes he's never walked arm in arm with a friend before. Walking toward the school, the former assassin accepts that this must be the long-dreamed of peace. Kumazawa stomps his foot hard on the redhead's head on the ground and tells him to lick his shoe again. Hibari watches the scene calmly, standing at a distance. The big guy asks what the problem is and demands that the shoe be left sparkling. Just then, one of the goons comments with a laugh that the kid used to be really good at that. The ninja remains silent, just analyzing the situation without showing any reaction. Suddenly, the bully notices that our MC is paying attention to the guy on the ground. So Kumazawa explains that he got a new chair, since Hibari had jumped off the roof. He shows a video on his phone, explaining that the kid's older sister is a cop. In the video, the policewoman is being cowardly beaten up by them on the street. Laughing, the bully narrates that the woman cried a lot and begged for mercy. Taking the opportunity, the group of delinquents thought it would be fun to take off her clothes. The redhead on the ground starts to cry in despair and humiliation, hearing all of it. Laughing loudly, the leader imitates the kid's voice begging them to spare his sister. Suddenly, a brutal kick smashes into Kumazawa's face, sending the guy flying backward. Angry and surprised, the fallen bully tries to figure out where that hit came from. Everyone stares in shock at Hibari, who has his leg extended after the attack. In reality, the ninja doesn't understand the concept of licking shoes or recording videos on phones. However, he clearly recognizes that this giant dude is incompatible with peace. Without changing his expression, the warrior states that there's nothing uglier than picking on the weak. Totally outraged by the kick, the big guy gets up, questioning what he just said. Our MC only wanted to stop the assault, having no intention of starting a fight there. Mockingly, the troublemaker thinks Hibari doesn't remember anything and challenges him to prove his courage. Accepting the challenge, the young man raises his leg, saying he'll start by teaching him how to lick shoes. Hearing that makes the leader's blood boil with rage instantly. Cracking their knuckles, the entire group gets ready to crush the ninja all at once. Laughing hysterically, Kumazawa thinks the kid left his memories back at the hospital. He promises to drill this lesson into the kid's head with a lot of beatings and pain. With fury in his eyes, the giant charges forward, throwing a punch with all his might. Caught off guard by the tranquility of this new world, our MC lets his guard down. The enemy seizes the perfect opening, focused on destroying his face with the heavy blow. A punch cuts through the air, but Hibari senses the threat just an instant before. The habit trained for years in the past kicks in on its own, without him even thinking. Like an automatic reflex to shut your eyes against dust, the ninja's body reacts. This is the pure survival instinct that an assassin develops in deadly battles. In the blink of an eye, our MC delivers a devastating punch to Kumazawa's head. The impact crushes the leader's face, sending blood flying through the air instantly. It was just an involuntary reflex, but the force behind it is completely overwhelming. The troublemaker's giant body flies backward with absurd violence. Startled, the warrior realizes he overdid it and fears he might have taken out a mere civilian. The group of delinquents panics, asking if their boss is still breathing. Seeing the guy writhing to get up, the ninja breathes a sigh of relief that it wasn't lethal. But right after, the young man feels a very sharp pain in his own hand. His hand is all bloody and seriously injured from the brutal impact of his punch. He learns the hard way that this student's body can't handle the recoil of his full strength. The goons notice in terror that their boss's face is completely caved in. Desperate about their leader's condition, they decide to rush Kumazawa to the hospital. As they carry the guy away, the goons swear they'll get revenge on Hibari later. Looking at the wound on his hand, our MC thinks that ninjas really aren't needed here. He turns to the red-haired kid on the ground and calmly asks if he's okay. Suddenly, a thick smoke violently explodes around the crouching redhead. The ninja is startled to see that, instantly recognizing the shinobi technique. The smoke clears, revealing a clone trick in place of the previously injured kid. Just then, someone takes a drag from a cigarette and blows the smoke into the air, cursing out our MC without holding back. Hibari watches the guy running toward him, impressed by his stealthy movement. Sensing an undeniable killing aura, the warrior changes his stance and goes on full alert. The redhead glares back at him, revealing right away that he already knows his true identity. A glowing shinobi tattoo appears on the mysterious enemy's forehead and eye. Exhaling the smoke, he introduces himself as Hattori and says he's from the Shinobi Syndicate. Continuing his mission, the guy advances quickly across the courtyard in a threatening manner. In a swift agile move, he throws several ninja tools toward our MC. The intruder charges like a lightning bolt, yelling that he's going to finish off the target right now. Not understanding the situation at all, our MC wonders what this whole syndicate story is about. He also tries to process where the heck this Hattori guy came from so suddenly. with dust kicking up from the ground. The enemy leaps high into the air, ready to attack from above. The redhead unleashes custom blades with small motors that rip through the air with a loud whir. Quickly, Hattori pulls out explosive tubes and spreads a very thick smoke across the courtyard. Joining his hands, the enemy begins a complex sequence of jutsus in mid-air. Several explosions detonate along the way, completely concealing his stealthy advance. The redhead activates the smoke prison technique, rapidly engulfing the entire area. Hibari is trapped inside a giant gray vortex that blocks his entire vision. The dense curtain closes in more and more, tightening the circle around the cornered warrior. Pulling out a small hidden blade, the ninja wonders about the reason for this surprise attack. Even without understanding the reason for all this, he's sure he can't take it easy. From the shadows of the vortex, Hattori emerges, delivering a quick strike with a dagger. Blocking the attack at the last second, our MC notices that his camouflage is flawless. The narration explains that ninjas have always used camouflage for infiltration, espionage, and even assassinations. This was essential for them to carry out their secret missions in the middle of ancient cities. They often posed as weak and harmless people, or even honest and trustworthy citizens. Hiding their claws under a public mask, they infiltrated daily life until it was time to strike. That's when the assassins would finally show their fangs and take off their targets' heads in a completely lethal manner. Back in the fight, Hibari reflects that the redhead was just hiding behind that pathetic act. The warrior is impressed, noticing how the enemy managed to conceal such a sharp, killing intent. Being the foundation and greatest secret of ninjas, our MC immediately recognizes Hattori's high skill level. He then wonders in shock if, even in this modern era, shinobi are still hidden everywhere. Seizing the opening, the intruder attacks from within the smoke, asking if the target is lost in his own thoughts. In a quick reflex, the young man manages to dodge the sneak attack that came from very close. But the dense smoke around him continues to obstruct his vision, making him quite annoyed. Violently, the redhead unleashes a heavy downward stab that the warrior struggles to block. The impact makes our MC grit his teeth, feeling the absurd force of that direct attack. Wasting no time, the enemy swiftly retreats and vanishes back into the gray vortex in the courtyard. Gliding through the shadows, Hattori perfectly camouflages himself in the thick curtain without a trace. The attacker's voice echoes through the smoke prison, warning that the kid will never find him in there. Completely cornered, Hibari shouts, asking the guy to wait a moment. He tries to tell him that he has no intention of fighting, and demands to know what the heck is going on. However, the only response he gets is absolute silence circulating throughout the school district. Keeping his guard up, the warrior notices that a very dangerous ninja is lurking like a serial killer. Hidden in the mist, the redhead just focuses on his target, coldly declaring that he's hunting his prey. Our MC analyzes the environment, noticing that the guy has completely erased his presence from the area. With his experience, he recognizes that it's a smoke technique derived from the fire style. It's a type of silent takedown used by specialists focused on pure stealth tactics. The intruder accuses the young man of living in hiding without registering with the syndicate and finds it highly suspicious. Being completely honest, the student retorts that he doesn't know anything and just wanted to live in peace this time. But the enemy lets out a mocking laugh, calling the kid a liar for talking about peace at a time like this. A quick, stealthy kick emerges from the smoke, aimed directly at our MC's leg. The attacker adds that someone seeking peace would never be working as a ninja assassin. Shocked as he loses his balance, Hibari realizes too late that the blow came from a smoke clone. He notices with a start that it was just a phantom arm appearing to trick his combat perception. Giving no quarter, the real Hattori drops from the sky, firing several blades, and telling the target to perish right there. The warrior curses the situation, accepting that things were exactly as he had imagined. Closing his eyes calmly, the young man accepts the sad reality that this world hasn't changed all that much. A sharp kunai cuts through the air, flying dangerously straight toward his exposed neck. In that brief instant before the blade hits him, our MC accepts that he's facing a very strong opponent. A bluish aura begins to cover the kid's body as he deeply regrets this whole situation. With eyes glowing with power, he concludes that peace, 500 years after the age of war, is just a pipe dream. Unleashing his energy in the center of the thick curtain, the ninja decrees that the bloody era never truly ended. Completely focused, the young man's posture shifts to that of a true, ruthless warrior, ready for the kill. A brutal blast of wind radiates from his body, deflecting the blades and instantly destroying the smoke prison. The redhead is stunned to see his perfect technique undone, as he was using the smoke to track heat and movement. That tactic would give the enemy an absolute advantage in a deadly game of hide and seek against anyone. But the intruder starts to break into a cold sweat. Feeling the crushing pressure of the presence he just awakened in the courtyard. A storm of intensely colored energy swirls violently around our MC without stopping. Completely paralyzed with shock, the redhead stammers, unable to comprehend what level of strength that is. The power radiating from the student is so dense and colossal that it forms a giant, terrifying figure in the air. Terrified, the assassin curses, saying the aura is so massive he can't even locate where the kid is. Desperately, the attacker looks around, trying to find the target's real position amidst the energy. Suddenly, he gets a deadly scare, noticing our MC positioned silently right behind him. With a cold, piercing gaze, Hibari simply declares that he has won this clash decisively. Keeping the blade to his rival's neck, he warns that he would have already taken him out if he were an enemy, and repeats that he knows nothing. Trembling with fear under the threat, the redhead questions who the heck this monster is, talking about different eras. The warrior calmly steps away and reveals his true ancient name, admitting that he has reincarnated in this era. This confession makes the intruder let out a scream of total shock upon hearing that legendary name from a student's mouth. With the tension easing a bit, our MC lowers his guard while the other guy continues to tremble badly. Casually twirling his own weapon, the young man reinforces that this is the truth of the whole confusing situation. He then points at the redhead, demanding that the guy explain things and show him where to get some decent food. The attacker's eyes remain wide as he thinks about the absurd consequences if this kid really is Goko. Watching the warrior walk away so calmly, Hattori thinks this whole story is completely insane. In the shadows of the courtyard, a giant toad with glowing red eyes carefully watches their conversation. The scene changes to the modern facade of a bustling fast food joint in the sunny city. Sitting at the table, the former assassin stares at a double cheeseburger, suspicious if it's actually edible. Losing patience with the weirdness, the redhead rolls his eyes and explains the name of this popular food. Next, the slickster tries to flirt with the waitress, asking for her number, but gets shot down directly. Ignoring his partner, the kid continues to analyze the meal, amazed because he'd never seen anything with those colors before. The redhead devours the burger with gusto while our MC also takes his first hesitant bite. Smelling the pleasant aroma beforehand, he chews the piece slowly and is soon completely surprised by the taste. With his eyes sparkling with joy, the ex-ninja gets emotional upon discovering that this strange meal is incredibly delicious. Changing the subject, Hattori starts to explain about the famous modern ninja syndicate known as Shinoran. He reports that all current shinobi are required to register before taking control of any area. The organization deals with society's heavy-duty issues involving trafficking, firearms, and extreme street violence. Agents are also sent to directly intervene in the brutal wars between Yakuza gangs. To solve these problems that the police can't handle, an official license to use ninjutsu is mandatory. Hattori explains that the organization memorizes the faces of all members, which is why he thought the kid was an intruder. Realizing the absurd mistake, the assassin bows to the ground, offering a sincere apology for the confusion. Cool with the situation, Hibari assures him it's all good, and that the wound on his foot will heal quickly. His partner is completely shocked by his coldness and treating a stab wound as if it were absolutely nothing. Utterly amazed, Hattori stares at our MC, finding his posture incredibly radiant. The syndicate member reflects that Goko is simply the name of the strongest ninja in all of recorded history. He can hardly believe that a living legend of this caliber is sitting right in front of him, eating a burger. But the expectation shatters immediately when the warrior gets food all over himself, finding it delicious. This unusual scene brings the assassin back to reality in an instant. Trying to keep his cool, he decides he can't let his idol see how excited he is. Sipping his soda, Hattori thinks that showing emotion is a rookie move, and he doesn't want to be left behind. Changing the subject, his partner comments on how this whole reincarnation thing is really hard to believe. Curious about the past, he asks if our MC also knows how to use a teleportation jutsu. Without beating around the bush, Hibari answers directly that the technique wasn't his. In silence, the warrior wonders if his arrival in this era is connected to the power of that one-eyed ninja. Furthermore, the student asks to be called only by his current name. Our MC explains that Goko was left in the past and his identity from now on is just Hibari. Maintaining a serene tone, he confesses that he wishes to experience a new life using this different name. Hearing these words makes the assassin see the warrior glowing again and think it's all very cool. Cutting the formal mood, Hibari points out that they're the same age and asks him to drop the formalities. His partner gets all nervous with the closeness and stammers out a clumsy confirmation. Promising to speak more casually, Hattori reveals that there was another reason he attacked the kid earlier. The warrior immediately deduces that the cause must be the existence of other rogue ninjas scattered around. With that, the assassin explains that using ninjutsu in public is forbidden, but some have been openly attacking civilians. Surprised by the information, our MC hears that the first attack occurred exactly 1 month ago. His partner points out that the crimes always happen on rainy days, when city security is at its peak. He narrates that a government minister slipped into a deserted alley to smoke after finishing his duties. Since the politician was publicly against the tobacco industry, He needed to hide to keep up appearances. Even with both alley exits fully monitored by security, the worst happened inside. Suddenly, the minister started screaming in pure agony as his body swelled up bizarrely. The guards looked on in horror as the man underwent a hideous mutation right in front of them. Thrashing on the wet ground, the politician roared in pain with no one able to do anything to help. Without warning, the minister's body exploded violently, splattering blood everywhere. Hearing the gruesome account, Hibari rests his hand on his chin, processing the gravity of the whole situation. The assassin says the autopsy found a lethal poison, and that the victims keep piling up in the same way. Crushing his cup in anger, he reveals that women and children are also perishing in this massacre, which is being hushed up by the media. Given the difficulty of bypassing presidential-level security, Hattori is absolutely certain the culprit is a ninja. Gritting his teeth in fury, the syndicate member swears he will hunt down and eliminate the scumbag to protect the city. Observing his partner's anger, the warrior realizes he's driven by a strong sense of indignant justice. Reflecting in silence, our MC concludes that this guy talks too much but seems trustworthy. Pointing to the ordinary people in the diner, the assassin notes that they just want to live their lives in peace. He thinks civilians should continue to believe that ninjas are just ancient fictional legends. To his partner, discovering that assassins are walking freely on the streets would cause mass paranoia in society. The organization's mission is to keep problems in the underworld while secretly protecting the tranquility of the surface. However, Hattori deeply regrets that this fragile peace is being threatened by a lunatic. Our MC imagines a terrifying scene with the people in that place all gone, bathed in blood on the floor. Knowing the warrior's strength, his partner directly asks for help in tracking the poison user. Hattori throws the responsibility on him, stating that someone seeking peace can't just ignore this danger. The student remains silent for a while, just absorbing the weight of that sudden request. Then, he begins to reflect that in his past life, he always acted solely on his master's orders. Closing his eyes calmly, the former assassin wonders who the lord he should obey in this new era is. The image of Nobunaga's smiling face comes to mind, along with his final wish to show his student a peaceful world. Our MC fondly remembers the genuine desire the leader had to achieve ultimate peace. Determined to protect that dream, Hibari accepts the request and promises to lend all his strength to the mission. His partner vibrates with excitement, celebrating that having a legend around is equivalent to the strength of 100 men combined. Already getting things moving, Hattori grabs the kid's phone, asking for his number to stay in touch. But the warrior is confused, not quite understanding the concept of giving a number to someone else. The assassin lets out a tired sigh, realizing the kid has no clue what a smartphone is. Touching the modern device's glass screen, our MC confirms that this strange object is the so-called phone. However, his partner gets a huge shock when he sees missed call notifications from a woman on the lock screen. In the late afternoon, a red-haired girl waits impatiently in front of a residential condo. Walking calmly along the sidewalk, Hibari approaches the young woman without any rush. Annoyed by the delay, she yells, asking where the heck the student has been all this time. Caught off guard by the intense scolding, the warrior shrinks a little and apologizes for being late. The girl demands he open the door so she can take a shower, complaining about how tired she is from carrying her bags. Getting closer, our MC starts sniffing the young woman's scent in a very weird way. She notices the smell of fast food and scolds him for eating junk right after getting out of the hospital. In a lecturing tone, the student reinforces that the kid knows very well that type of food is pure poison. Hearing the word poison makes the former assassin's gaze turn serious in an instant, remembering the mission. In the memory from the diner, his partner read on the phone that the college student's name was Amami Yu. Hattori explained that the young woman was an acquaintance of the kid's mother, and was tasked with looking after him at home. Totally smitten by the girl's beauty in the photo, the assassin was shouting, asking if she was some famous model. Not quite understanding the family dynamics, Hibari calmly asked if he should go meet this woman. Showing a map app, his partner confirmed that yes, and pointed out the exact way to his house. However, the syndicate member had a worried expression, muttering that it would be fine, but leaving a hint of suspense. Walking the kid through the streets, Hattori warns him to be careful, reminding him that you never know who might be a ninja. Just then, a light rain begins to fall as our MC carries the heavy bags. Walking toward the building in the downpour, Yu calls out to him, and he confirms he's right behind her. Meanwhile, a strange noise echoes from a closed manhole in the middle of the wet street. A bizarre bluish water creature emerges from within the dark sewer. Now in the hallway of their floor, the redhead says, "Excuse me," and walks ahead toward the door. Watching the young woman from behind, the guy recognizes that this is the so-called Yui. The memory of Hattori talking about something being a real poison comes to his mind. Suspicious because of the mission, the warrior wonders if he can really trust this woman. Entering the apartment, the college student takes off her shoes and notes that the place is actually pretty clean. But Hibari's attention is entirely focused on that gigantic piece of luggage. He finds the absurd weight of the suitcase strange, deducing it couldn't just have clothes inside. Unlocking the luggage, Yui announces that she brought something very good for his body. The sound of the lock opening makes the kid back up a bit, expecting the worst. In a more serious tone, she reminds him that his school has been quite dangerous lately. Suddenly, the girl comments on the need to overcome stronger opponents in daily life. Turning around quickly, the young woman holds up a mysterious container, assuring him that the secret is to gain mass. Analyzing the strange powder, our MC freezes, imagining what it could be. The former assassin panics, thinking the college student brought poison to take him out. However, the redhead excitedly shows off the package, revealing it's just protein supplement. The ninja is left completely clueless about this weird powder. In a scolding tone, the girl throws it in his face that the student has been way too weak. Rummaging through the suitcase, she looks for more things, while the guy remembers the 10 years they haven't seen each other. Straining hard, Yui pulls gym weights out of the luggage. The young woman comments that she always thought he was scrawny, but now she realizes there's no muscle on him at all. Showing off the various pieces of equipment she bought, she tells the kid to train his body properly. The intention is to stop his mother from worrying herself sick and losing sleep. Without any effort, the warrior lifts the heavy dumbbell with one hand, completely confused. Seeing this, the girl panics, thinking he doesn't know how to use the equipment, and tries to teach him the proper form. Faced with this comical situation, our MC is certain she's not an enemy. Shaking as she tries to squeeze the grip strengthener, the college student insists that he's not supposed to do the exercise with just one hand. Watching her effort, the student perceives her genuine concern for the body's real owner. Easily squeezing the strengthener, he wonders why he's even playing along with this. In an affectionate tone, the redhead confesses she owes his mother a lot, which is why she'll be living there for a while. Understanding her side, the young man listens in silence, maintaining his calm demeanor. Very calmly, the girl kindly asks him not to think about taking his own life again. That statement catches the ninja by surprise, making him consider telling the girl the whole truth. After all, the real Hibari's soul no longer inhabited that injured body. Mustering his courage, the warrior tries to start a conversation to reveal his real identity. But the college student interrupts him, stretching her arms and complaining that she's all sweaty, tired from the long walk there. She starts taking off her shirt right in front of him. This sudden action leaves the former assassin in shock. Using his agility, he turns his back in an instant as she announces she's going to use the shower. Overcome with embarrassment, our MC wonders if humanity has lost all sense of decency in the last 500 years. Far from this confusion, the college student enjoys a very relaxing shower in the hot water. Calmer now, the kid sits on the living room floor, watching the gloomy weather outside. Looking at the photo on his phone, he reinforces that the young woman is just a family acquaintance. Distracted by the device, the warrior concludes that the girl is just an ordinary civilian. Suddenly, a sharp instinct fires through his mind like lightning. The ex-assassin's eyes widen as he senses something very wrong in the environment. Walking to the balcony, he watches the heavy storm pouring down on the city. His red-haired partner's words echo in his head about the attacks on rainy days. Keeping his guard up, our MC reflects that this weather is the perfect setting for a ninja to act. The sound of the water muffles footsteps and makes any stealthy infiltration easier. Coldly analyzing the security, the student is sure there's only one main entrance. The first floor layout confirms that the 3 windows are locked. The same goes for the second floor, where the other 2 exits are also secured. Completely confident, the warrior is proud of having perfectly monitored all the doors and windows. However, he forgot one small detail inside the bathroom. Emerging from the shower drain, the mysterious creature slowly takes form behind the girl. Advancing grotesquely, the aquatic enemy prepares its fatal strike on the young woman's back. The intruder used the plumbing to enter through an underground access our MC was unaware of. Distractedly washing her hair, the college student feels a strange presence and turns her head. The slimy monster finishes rising, assuming its bizarre humanoid form. Sticking out a disgusting tongue, the creature gets very close to the victim's shoulder. The girl gets a terrible fright as she comes face to face with that aberration in the water. In the blink of an eye, a devastating punch tears through the air and hits the monster's face. Hugging the girl to protect her, Hibari lands the blow on the intruder as she screams his name. Startled by the enemy's texture, the warrior notices there was no impact from the attack at all. The punch simply goes through the creature's body as if he were hitting pure water. Shielding the college student with his arm, the student tells her to stay hidden right there. Wrapped in a towel, the redhead agrees, completely terrified by the insane situation. Wasting no time, the ninja dashes into the hallway, wanting to draw the threat away. Dripping across the floor, the aquatic creature gruesomely reconstructs itself, in the middle of the living room. Facing the water beast, the ex-assassin is certain that this guy is a ninja. Laughing sinisterly, the water monster stares at the kid in the middle of the hallway. The intruder praises our MC for noticing his silent infiltration, but Hibari retorts that he's terrible at hiding his bloodlust and demands to know who sent him. Ignoring the threat, the creature pulls a small goldfish out of its body and asks if it's listening to their chat. Mocking the kid, the monster calls him an idiot, assuring him he'd never reveal his secrets. However, the assassin considers spilling the beans if the student hands over the woman from the bathroom in exchange. This absurd proposal leaves the warrior completely shocked and outraged. The enemy continues to rave about the girl's beauty, thinking she looks like a magazine model. With malice in his voice, he claims that the tears of women like her are delicious right before their end. Faced with such disgusting filth, the ex-assassin maintains his composure and says he's understood everything. Enveloped by a powerful aura, our MC declares that he's sending him straight to the underworld. Wasting no time, the ninja advances at an absurd speed and lands a very heavy punch on the enemy. Taunting the kid, the aquatic creature warns that water can be a brutally terrifying force. He then swiftly activates a secret ninja technique called fluid possession. The warrior is shocked to realize his punch caused absolutely no damage to the opponent's face. Transforming into a lethal stream of water, the monster attacks from below, aiming to pierce the student's heart. In an immediate reflex, our MC tries to defend himself with a blow that passes right through the creature. The action has no effect, and the young man realizes in shock that the intruder can completely liquefy his body. Seizing the failed opening, the slime quickly wraps around the warrior's neck and mouth. The monster threatens to block his airways from the inside to suffocate him to his demise without mercy. The ex-assassin tries to pull the water off with his hands, panicking as he can't get a grip on it. The gruesome intruder begins to force its way down the young man's throat in a cruel and agonizing attack. The narration explains that the biggest problem in this bizarre fight is precisely the enemy's elemental attribute. Traditional ninjutsu is broadly divided into 5 basic elements of nature for battles. A ninja who undergoes very rigorous training ends up manifesting one of these magical natures. However, in some rare cases, certain fighters can develop unique elemental attributes. The smoke technique used by his red-haired partner, for example, is just a variation of the fire art. But the legendary Goko never manifested any of these magical affinities throughout his entire life. By focusing absurdly on physical training, he ended up becoming the strongest ninja of all. In other words, that warrior's fighting style exclusively uses his own body as a great weapon. For a fighter accustomed to heavy physical blows, facing a mass of water is very dangerous. This detail makes that confrontation the worst possible scenario for the warrior's pure skills. With that, the intruder takes advantage of the vulnerability to violently descend down the young man's throat. Lacking air in his lungs, the student suffers while the creature laughs sadistically at the situation. The monster taunts him, saying it has invaded his body, and there's no way to escape the internal drowning. Drawing strength from beyond, our MC charges his aura, assuring that he still has a card up his sleeve. Focusing his vital energy into his right hand, he prepares to use an insane physical ability. In a single destructive punch, the warrior completely shatters the wall of his own apartment. Surprising the meddling enemy, the ex-assassin simply jumps from the building toward the asphalt below. The water creature follows the swift freefall, completely stunned by the kid's reckless decision. Trapped inside, the assassin wonders out loud what the heck that brat is thinking. He speculates that the deep asphyxiation has driven the student completely mad. After all, leaving a covered area to go straight into a heavy downpour gives an immense advantage to a water monster. The creature makes guttural sounds, warning that the abundant rain has sealed his fate for good. But the intruder is soon truly frightened by the young man's serene posture as he lands on the ground. Fully infiltrated, the monster guarantees that suffocation will only be a matter of time. He reflects angrily that no one in their right mind would jump from a building like that so impulsively. The young man's tranquility irritates the intruder to no end, thinking the kid is trying to make a fool of him. Furious with the audacity, the creature tries to force itself to believe that the jump is a pure bluff. Pressing the painful asphyxiation, the assassin swears he will not back down from the fight. The water forcing its way down his airways makes the kid writhe, clutching his own neck for lack of oxygen. The monster screams, telling its prey to tear its own throat out in sheer desperation and just kick the bucket. Ignoring the debilitating pain, Hibari concentrates energy into his feet, breaking a solid piece of the ground. In a violent leap, he kicks the pieces of stone, gaining an absurd boost into the air. The aquatic aberration blinks, completely misunderstanding the purpose of that useless jump toward the wires. With great dexterity, the warrior grabs a high-voltage cable right in the heavy rain. Feeling the dangerous charge, the intruder finally recognizes the terrifying threat behind those black cables. Seized by immediate terror, the creature begs the kid to let go and not end him. Even while choking on the slime, the young man coldly declares that the fight has turned into a tough endurance test. Without any mercy, he squeezes the wiring tightly, injecting his strength and generating an immense flash. The intense shock tears through our MC's arms and hits the creature trapped in his midsection head-on. Fried by the conducted electricity, the slimy monster lets out a deafening scream of pure suffering. The student also suffers greatly from the shocking impact passing through his nervous system. The narration explains that the assassin from the past would never understand the real concept of a modern power cable. However, his primal senses allow him to track dangerous scents, like the concentrated electricity within. The electric punishment continues to pour down from the wiring, electrocuting the aberration without any let-up. Even feeling his flesh burn horribly from the high voltage, the ex-assassin firmly resists with his eyes closed. After the merciless discharge ends, the warrior plummets, exhausted, and hits the wet street below. Shivering from cold and pain on the dark sidewalk, he vomits up a good portion of the slime that was blocking his breath. Forced out of the tight space, the aquatic creature slithers out, completely damaged by the lethal shock. The spreading puddle hits the soaked asphalt, slowly moving away from the teenager's kneeling body. Trying to regain its original form, the panting enemy laments not being able to maintain its water disguise. Terrified by the prey's frightening tenacity, the assassin focuses on crawling away to save his own life. But the storm finally gives a silent reprieve as the monster sees the young man walking imposingly toward it, brutally smashing the injured creature's face against the sidewalk with his sharp hand. Hibari declares the end of the night's hunt. Agonizing from the brutal electric shock, the aquatic creature writhes while Hibari maintains a firm stance. Staring coldly at the enemy, our MC announces that the fun in the water is finally over. With that, the monster's eye widens, completely overcome by pure terror of the situation. Desperate with the unbearable pain, the intruder screams, begging the kid to wait a moment. But the request is ignored, and the ex-assassin continues to channel the merciless energy through the cables. The violent shock fries the aberration's body in the middle of the wet asphalt without any let-up. Losing control of the technique, the terrifying form dissolves as the beast screams in agony. Soon, the enemy is completely incapacitated, ending the crazy fight in the rain for good. With the storm coming down, the student silently observes the intruder's true form lying on the street. Dripping with water, he analyzes his own hand, feeling the heavy impact the technique had on his body. Letting out a relieved sigh, the young man holds a small goldfish and regrets having destroyed the house. Back in the destroyed hallway, the kid feels the pain of his wounds and observes his clothes, all scorched. He reflects in shock on how much that level of electricity hurt his student physique. Hibari admits he was very lucky the aquatic opponent was naturally weak against lightning. To make matters worse, he admits he would have been crushed by a lightning master and decides he needs to train much more. Opening the bathroom door, exhausted, the warrior comments to himself that he'll have to get back to training. Huddled in the corner of the room, Yui trembles with fear, clutching only a white towel. The college student is slightly startled to see the kid suddenly enter. With a calmer gaze, our MC reassures the girl, telling her that everything is okay now. Hearing this makes his friend look at him with her eyes welling up with pure relief and security. However, she notices the kid's burnt clothes and nervously asks who that hideous man was. Still terrified, the young woman insists on knowing what the heck happened to make him look like that. With no strength in her legs, the girl stumbles forward and ends up falling right into the student's chest. Caught completely by surprise, he hears Yu ask for a shoulder to lean on, as she can't stand up. A bit awkward with the situation, the warrior agrees to support his scared friend. Embarrassed, the college student leans on him, feeling the skin-to-skin contact through the short towel. With her face hidden, the girl quietly thanks him for saving her life in that inferno. The former assassin becomes even more flustered, feeling the girl's unexpected closeness. Out of nowhere, Hibari just slings Yui over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes. Totally indignant, the young woman starts yelling, telling the psycho to put her down right now. The girl complains that she only asked for a shoulder, explaining that normal people don't do that. Understanding the modern mix-up, our MC puts her down as she adjusts the towel on her body. In a playful tone, Yu apologizes for calling the guy a weakling earlier. She tosses her wet hair back, commenting that he even seems a little stronger now. Observing his friend's cheerful mood, the warrior responds with a very calm and serene look. On a video call, Hattori confirms the capture of the water ninja and bets it'll be a while before he wakes up. Hiding in a dark alley, his partner reports that the syndicate's recovery team is already on its way. Watching the city from a rooftop, the assassin thanks the kid for taking care of business early. Showing the unconscious intruder, our MC asks if this is the killer they were looking for. Thoughtfully, the syndicate member agrees that the aquatic technique explains the attacks on rainy days. He deduces that the monster was watching their fight in the schoolyard earlier that day. Sitting in his own room, Hibari concludes that the intruder was sent to his house on purpose. Staring at the goldfish in the bowl, The ex-assassin thinks that's the only logical explanation. On the other end of the line, Hattori supposes the enemy wanted to eliminate the competition to continue the slaughter. But suddenly, his partner's eyes widen in pure shock at seeing something bizarre on his phone screen. Over the phone, his partner screams in desperation, telling Hibari to look behind him quickly. Our MC is startled to see several bizarre frogs on the bed next to the prisoner. Screaming, Hattori warns that if that's a jutsu, the enemies have come to silence the witness. With frightening speed, one of the frogs shoots out its tongue, aiming to burn the valuable file. The ex-assassin freezes, realizing those things are loaded with poison needles. The disgusting creature spits a volley of spines while his partner pleads for him to save the guy. Calculating the distance, the warrior realizes in a millisecond that he won't get there in time to block the hit. Without hesitation, the young man quickly concentrates an absurd amount of aura into his fingertips. Using this sharp energy, he pulls several loose pens from his desk. In a fraction of a second, the student throws the simple objects as if they were deadly kunai. The improvised projectiles tear through the air, violently shredding the poisonous frogs to pieces. Having hit all the targets with surgical precision, the kid runs toward the bed in relief. However, the warrior's survival instinct blares, and he freezes in place, completely in shock. A final frog hidden on the floor launches its long tongue, escaping the young man's field of vision. With a direct hit, the venomous needle embeds itself right in the middle of the lying intruder's face. Waking up suddenly, the man's eyes go wide, and he spits blood, feeling the poison take immediate effect. The student watches in horror as the fatal infection takes over the victim at an unreal speed. Screaming in extreme agony, the ninja's face begins to swell and undergo a grotesque and painful mutation. In a violent burst, the intruder's entire head explodes, spreading a sea of blood across the room. With a swift movement of his arm, Hibari bats away the remains, preventing the goo from getting on him. Taking advantage of the explosive chaos, the last frog leaps swiftly toward the open bedroom window. The bizarre animal jumps out into the rainy night, leaving only a trail of ninja smoke behind. The ex-assassin grits his teeth in frustration, watching the creature disappear without a single clue. On the blood-soaked bed, the bodies of the other shredded amphibians also begin to vanish. Dissipating like smoke into the air, the summons leave only the pens used in the attack on the bed. Through the screen of the fallen phone, Hattori desperately asks if the prisoner is safe from the attack. Staring at the headless corpse, our MC apologizes, stating that he failed the mission. Holding the device, the warrior hears his partner confirm that this is the serial killer's method. Analyzing the disappearance of the creatures, Hibari finally understands the bigger picture of the complex situation. From the dark rooftop, the syndicate member hears the kid state that the Frog Master is the real culprit. Annoyed, Hattori laments the loss of the prisoner, pointing out that the guy was a valuable source of information. But Hibari analyzes the bloody corpse on the bed and assures him they didn't leave completely empty-handed. Observing the mark on the deceased's back, our MC notices the tattoo is shallow and was done less than a month ago. This means the intruder was just an ordinary civilian living a normal life until very recently. Utterly shocked, Hattori explains that the shinobi mark is a top secret and isn't done on just any street corner. His partner is outraged, trying to understand if the water monster really gained those abilities out of nowhere. With a very serious posture, the warrior states that they can deduce two important things from this situation. The first is that the poison master is clearly gathering many more disposable pawns for his plans. Furthermore, the enemy has some bizarre method capable of awakening ninjutsu in amateurs at an absurd speed. Confused by all this, Hattori questions why and how this is possible, but our MC doesn't know either. The worst part of this whole story is that any civilian in the entire city could end up awakening these powers. If the situation gets out of control, this crowd of skilled newcomers could start taking each other out in the middle of the streets. Faced with this danger, the assassin quickly suggests that the syndicate examine the water corpse as soon as possible. He believes that drugs or surgeries might have left some trace on the test subject, and the student agrees immediately. Staring at the full moon from the rooftop, the syndicate member decides to summon the kid to go with him to the base. Hattori recognizes the absurd gravity of the case and says he wants to introduce the kid to the head of the operation. Still standing in his own wrecked room, the ex-assassin just agrees to the invitation over the phone. The young man calmly walks to the window and watches the full moon illuminating the modern city sky. Reflecting on the next steps, the warrior decides he really needs to visit this so-called ninja syndicate. The scene suddenly shifts to a nighttime setting covered in very dense, tropical vegetation. Suddenly, a man's eyes fly wide open, consumed by an inexplicable shock of terror. Thrown on the ground of this mysterious jungle, a young man tries to process where the heck he is and why. He soon realizes his arms and legs are tightly bound, wondering who set up this ambush. Trying not to freak out, the man takes a deep breath, remembering his name is Seizo and he's an official syndicate agent. His memory starts to return, bringing flashes of the exact moment he was patrolling the city rooftops. During the night mission, the agent caught a strange scent in the air and found a very suspicious purple smoke. But before he could react, the poisonous fog overtook his body, making him plummet straight from the building. Back in the bizarre jungle, Seizo instantly concludes that he was sedated by that gas and dragged to this captive location. Completely vulnerable on the ground, the ninja swallows hard, knowing he's unfamiliar with both the location and the enemy. Straining to move, he feels the hot, humid air on his face, certain he's in a forest. Just then, an absurdly loud and distorted croak echoes right next to the scared prisoner's head. The agent freezes instantly, feeling a deadly chill run up his spine as he sees the creature. Suddenly, the sound of calm, heavy footsteps crushing leaves breaks the tense silence of the vegetation. A mysterious figure slowly approaches through the shadows and notes with cynicism that his prey has finally woken up. The macabre woman with red hair and a bizarre four-eyed mask comments that he was sleeping quite well. Still tied up and in shock, Seizo demands to know who this crazy person is, staring down at him like that. Using a completely mocking tone of voice, the enemy points to herself, playing dumb. She toys with the young man's desperation, asking if this is some kind of guessing game with a prize. Maintaining the coolness of a professional, the agent decides to stall the woman while trying to dislocate his own bones. However, as he strains against the ropes, he realizes in terror that his entire body is completely numb and paralyzed. An intense weakness overcomes his muscles, leaving his arms feeling like lead on the damp earth. Observing the failed attempt, the kidnapper laughingly warns that the prisoner will only be able to move his head. The woman sadistically explains that the ninja's body is now just a big jar of pure neurotoxin. Understanding the terrible situation, Seizo connects the dots and accuses the woman of being the poisoned serial killer. She's flattered by the reputation, but calmly assures him that she's not the one responsible for making the deadly toxin. Presenting the small frog in her hand, the villain reveals that these little guys are the true creators of the poison. The woman pets the colorful amphibian, admiring how it looks like a rare, sparkling jewel in the darkness. Spraying a liquid directly into the creature's mouth, the enemy explains the process of generating the lethal toxins. With great malice, she reinforces that her only job here is to diabolically ensure the creatures are fed. The frog swallows the food instantly, while the kidnapper details that she uses strong poison to create an even worse one. This disgusting feedback loop forces the amphibian's organisms to develop very extreme toxins. Circling the fallen victim, the masked woman confesses that making these mixtures is a lot of work, but the result is worth it. Furious with the cruelty, Seizo shouts in outrage upon discovering that all the deaths in the city were just a test. Ignoring the agent's anger, she coldly compares her actions to normal human laboratory experiments. With a pure psychopath's gaze from behind the mask, the assassin decides to test her new lethal creation right then and there. Suddenly, one of the giant frogs leaps with absurd force toward the immobilized prisoner's face. In a bizarre, coordinated attack, several other poisonous amphibians advance through the air, ready for the deadly strike. Completely surrounded by those disgusting, loudly croaking creatures, the agent panics, unable to escape. The crazy woman laments, having failed to completely silence the previous victims in the city. The grotesque memory of the man exploding proves that the current poison still leaves a very obvious physical trace. Watching the creature land near the target, she understands perfectly that any evidence would attract unwanted attention. Planning for the future, the assassin decrees that she needs a much more potent toxin to face her enemies. With its mouth wide open, exhaling purple smoke, the frog prepares a chemical designed to disintegrate people. Like a merciless lightning bolt, the long, pointed tongue tears through the wind straight toward the prisoner's defenseless body. Refusing to go out like a lab rat, Seizo curses the woman and awakens a fiery aura in his eyes. With a deafening scream of pure determination, the agent pushes his limits, instantly activating his fire power. A gigantic, furious column of flames explodes from the ninja's body, deflecting the attack in a luminous instant. But the sadistic villain just smiles at the intense heat, thanking the fiery test subject for the wonderful sacrifice. Overcoming the hot barrier effortlessly, the poisoned tongue brutally pierces Seizo's skull in a fatal blow. The absurd poison enters his bloodstream and starts to melt the agent's face in a second of pure agony. The ninja's entire body instantly liquefies, leaving only the amphibian's tongue retracting. Collecting the chemical remnants of the attack, the masked woman admires the vial, confirming the mixture is impeccable. Staring at the puddle of melted clothes on the ground, she attests to the destructive power of that flesh-disintegrating toxin. Completely fascinated by her own sick power, the enemy holds up the little creature, declaring the success of her art. Celebrating maniacally under the moonlight, the serial killer smiles, satisfied with the experiment's conclusion. It all continues at Tokyo Station, with the large building lit up in the middle of a very cold early morning. Far from the usual bustle of people, Hibari and Hattori silently descend in a secret elevator. 180 meters underground, there is a huge, traditional mansion hidden in the darkness. That bizarre and silent place is the official and highly protected base of the Shinoran Ninja Syndicate. Walking through the illuminated stone courtyard, the duo calmly approaches the main entrance. Our MC is truly impressed by the idea of such a giant structure existing so deep underground. Just then, a little girl in a kimono appears, holding an old cage and welcoming the two. But suddenly, the large red parrot inside opens its beak and greets the kid, calling him a ninja. Surprised to hear the bird speak like that, the ex-assassin listens as the bird apologizes for its appearance. The animal introduces itself as Manson, revealing he is the Grand Director of the secret Shinoran organization. The duo pays close attention as the bird decides to get straight to the point about the real reason for their visit. Manson announces in a serious tone that he's going to test the kid, explaining that his technique uses animals. The leader says he's speaking directly from his quarters and introduces the little girl as Shizu, his personal caretaker. Whispering on the side, Hattori comments that the boss always pulls this trick and no one at the base knows his real face. Maintaining formality, the parrot apologizes for the whole mystery, begging the student not to be offended. Understanding the situation perfectly, Hibari replies that exposing one's identity is always a matter of life or demise. Our MC finds the leader's level of caution very natural, and the parrot thanks him for his sensible empathy. Cutting the formal mood, the red-haired partner gets curious and directly asks what kind of test it will be. Very excited about the situation, Hattori assures them that the student is tough as nails and should join the poison mission immediately. Speaking calmly, the director reassures the young man, stating he has no doubts about the recruit's absurd skills. However, to issue an official syndicate license in the city, Manson explains that he needs to follow certain protocols. The leader firmly points out that it's impossible to grant any authorization without first understanding the warrior's power and element. Without a second thought, the ex-assassin confesses very clearly that his fighting style has no magical element. To the duo's momentary surprise, the parrot calmly replies that he was already aware of this little historical detail. The bird recalls that in the past, the kid fought depending only on a monstrous physical enhancement of his own body. Without manifesting any natural power, the legend focused solely on raw muscular strength and was still crowned the strongest. That was precisely the warrior's brutal style in the tense era, when war dominated every corner of the country. But the director points out a very important fact, stating that this huge reputation was stuck in the past era. Now, the reincarnated legend inhabits the ordinary physique of a teenager, which completely changes the rules of the game. With this crazy change in the host, Manson suggests the strong possibility of the young man developing new elemental affinities. Realizing the boss's brilliant logic instantly, Hattori slaps his own head, admitting he hadn't thought of that before. The leader continues his explanation, detailing that ninjutsu is basically the manifestation of nature's force flowing through the flesh. So if the user's physical structure is different now, the old abilities might naturally adapt as well. At that moment, a black cat appears, meowing softly, and walks slowly down the hall until it stops near an isolated candle. The parrot directly asks the kid if he isn't at least a little curious to discover his potential new attribute. The yellow-eyed feline stays very still, observing the bright fire illuminating the darkness of the rustic floor. Staring at the scene with a very focused gaze, our MC pays attention to the proposal, feeling the mood in the hallway grow heavy. Breaking the dramatic silence of the base, Manson officially decrees the start of an internal evaluation rite. The ex-assassin enters a gigantic and very empty training hall with rice paper doors. Outside in the dark, his red-haired partner and the little girl wait anxiously, watching the new recruit's every step. Hibari sits on the floor in a more casual style, facing the old golden stand holding the candle. Taking a deep breath to calm his mind, the warrior slowly closes his eyes and joins his palms in a classic meditation pose. The narration explains that he begins a complex sequence of hand positions known as the 9 fundamental syllables. Each gesture, executed rapidly, has the main purpose of refining the user's internal power for the tests. Completing the correct form with great agility in the shadows, the student concentrates his energy in a continuous flow. Ninja theory says that by properly forcing these body seals, a person can extract any dormant magical power from deep within. Watching in amazement from the corner, Hattori lets out a shocked whisper, seeing the kid's body glow with an intense golden hue. The power radiating from Hibari illuminates the entire training room, as if it were a lighthouse in the dead of night. Even the great director, through the bird, comments quietly that he didn't imagine such a monstrous amount of accumulated power. The intensity of this presence is so absurdly dense that the caretaker starts to tremble uncontrollably, feeling the pure pressure. Cowering in the dark hallway, the little girl covers her face, barely able to withstand the weight of that force crushing her lungs. Noticing the terrified girl's critical state, Manson quickly orders her to keep her eyes closed for safety. The leader warns with concern that the little one hasn't trained enough to withstand such an aggressive aura with all 5 senses. Obeying her master immediately, she squeezes her eyelids shut, breaking into a cold sweat in an attempt to endure the wave of absurd power. Meanwhile, the ancient rite continues to act as the ideal and perfect method for analyzing the properties of raw nature. The rule is very straightforward. If the hidden attribute is flame, the little fire grows stronger, and if it's earth, it changes color completely. Opening his eyes in the midst of the blinding glare, the ex-assassin stays alert, waiting for the famous magical reaction in the small candle. Focusing extremely hard on his hands, the young man channels everything he can, hoping to finally discover which magic has chosen him. However, the small flame on the golden stand remains exactly the same size and shape as when it all began. Seeing the fire completely still and unresponsive, the red-haired partner blinks, not understanding a thing, and chokes out a question. Totally lost by the lack of physical impact in the room, Hattori indignantly asks what the heck went wrong with that test. Still holding the mystical pose, our MC replies in a rather disappointed tone that he didn't notice any change in the environment. The kid glances at the tiny flame out of the corner of his eye, while the bird turns its head, trying to process the epic fail. Quickly undoing the seals from his sore hands, the student lets out a sigh, finding this whole drawn-out process too tiring. Casually scratching the back of his neck, the warrior gives a slight smile, concluding that, unfortunately, he still has no magic in his body. Hearing his friend accept his mediocrity makes the red-haired partner let out a shrill scream of total shock and fall backward awkwardly. Getting up slowly afterward, Hibari leaves the hall, stating that fighting with just his fists was never a problem anyway. Completely frustrated with this boring ending, his colleague throws a fit, saying he was really hoping to see some cool jutsu there. Hidden in the silence of his secret room, Manson analyzes the event, muttering that all of this was incredibly bizarre, to say the least. The Supreme Leader wonders how someone can force so much raw life energy and still maintain a complete magical void. Setting aside his complex thoughts for a while, the imposing bird calls the little caretaker, startling her slightly. The ninja director tells the girl to carefully retrieve the candle from the floor, swearing he will subject the material to in-depth analysis. Even without understanding the reason for this strange order, Shizu nods, staring at the lit yellow flame. Abruptly changing the subject, Manson turns to the group on the stone floor and finally declares the official end of the long exam. Shortly after, the boss arranges for a briefcase containing an official tactical license, formally handing the position over to the kid. Holding his new license, our MC just lets out a grunt, agreeing with the situation. The parrot informs him that the use of ninjutsu is now permitted in the city, as long as the kid stays in the shadows. The director advises that showing the document will solve any problems if an agent questions his identity. Manson quickly changes the subject, revealing that the autopsy results for the water ninja are finally in. Hearing this news puts the duo on high alert, ready to pay close attention to what the boss has to say. The little girl hands over a scroll containing the report details, and the bird tells them to burn it after reading. With that, the ex-assassin takes the green tube directly from the small caretaker's hands. Curious, the warrior wonders if that object holds any real clues about the so-called Poison Master. Manson declares that the young man is now officially part of the syndicate, and asks him to use his power for the sake of peace. Maintaining a firm and confident posture, the student assures him that he has always fought for this peaceful goal. Back on the surface during the day, the pair of partners arrives at the main entrance of their high school. Analyzing the open scroll, the redhead comments, impressed, on the high probability of the information. His partner reveals that the clues clearly indicate the assassin is hiding inside that school. Sighing in frustration while eating his snack, the syndicate member questions if this deduction is really true. Using his firepower on a single finger, Hattori burns the secret document, following the order to destroy it. Our MC warns that the attack on his house indicates the enemies already know both of their faces. Understanding the danger of the situation, the redhead concludes that they are at a crushing tactical disadvantage. However, the warrior isn't the least bit intimidated and calls out the hidden adversaries for an open fight. Wasting no time, the kid confidently strides across the courtyard toward the main school building. Meanwhile, a female figure holding a gruesome mask watches the duo from the top of the stairs. The mysterious person silently hides behind the glass, tracking the student's steps. The two partners calmly walk up the steps, unaware they are being watched from very close by. The assassin laments that the culprit is in there. Since he searched the entire building without any success, he deduces that finding no clues proves the Poison Master is at an absurd level of stealth. The narrative flashes back a few hours, showing a delicious plate of rice with meat in a city park. Devouring the meal in amazement, the ex-assassin confesses he never dreamed of eating such a good combination. Beside him, the redhead gets deeply annoyed as he eats, reading the contents of the syndicate scroll. Ignoring the tension, the young man praises the meal while his partner praises the boss's great investigative work. Finishing his bite, our MC gets curious and asks what the confidential report in his friend's hand says. The agent points to the text, confirming that the water enemy was indeed just an ordinary civilian until a few days ago. The report details that the monster's name was Jisoo, he was single, and worked directly for the water department. The guy had a minor criminal record but was dedicated to his job and deeply loved his pet fish. The boss collected all the deceased man's fish, and Shizu watches the animals swimming peacefully in a spacious aquarium. The redhead finds the leader's action very noble and continues to focus on the main information in the final report. The medical examination found a microscopic needle mark on the corpse that was almost completely missed during the analysis. Putting the pieces together, the partner yells with certainty that the power emerged because of this bizarre injection into the skin. The syndicate member notes with surprise that the investigation managed to trace the manufacturer of the seized medical equipment. Using the vision of night birds scattered across the city, the boss tracked the mysterious delivery route of the needles. The entire suspicious shipment ended up being unloaded directly inside the high school, where the two young men now study. Understanding the absurd gravity of the problem, our MC agrees, feeling the great weight of this tense revelation. Analyzing his own calloused hand, the warrior calmly concludes that their target is right there in the building nearby. Annoyed by the stealthy invasion, the redhead starts setting up small ninja traps using common school supplies. The student questions his friend's hasty attitude, who replies by stating that any improvised defense is welcome now. Staring at his ally's dedication, our MC finds the small secret weapon assembled by his colleague a bit amusing. After this long reflection in the courtyard, the two walk through the busy hallways, maintaining maximum attention on their surroundings. With a very serious posture, Hibari informs his friend that their secret identities have been completely blown. The redhead agrees with the imminent danger in the area and tells his partner to watch anyone who approaches suddenly. Just then, a group of students runs down the hall, wanting to record viral videos of the ex-assassin at school. One of the boys praises our MC's strength, excitedly stating that he heard about the heavy beatdown given to the giant bully. Completely caught off guard by the comment, the syndicate agent panics, trying to understand how the gossip spread so fast. A teacher appears, scolding the student for the violent fight, while others try to get her in the hectic recording. The redhead nervously realizes that even the teachers know what happened and finds the situation too dangerous and bizarre. He quickly remembers that the gang would never tell the whole school about their own humiliating defeat in that isolated alley. Surrounded by the crowd of students pointing phones, his partner panics, not knowing who the hidden enemy is. Feeling the pressure of the closing circle, Hattori yells for his friend, warning that things have gotten completely out of control. The ninja terrifyingly deduces that if the poison master attacks while hidden in the chaotic crowd, they'll be completely lost. Maintaining an enviable coolness amidst the confusion, the warrior states that someone secretly watched their fight in the alley. The narrative shows that one of the assassin's poisonous frogs spied on the entire fight against the gang from the shadows of the wall. The kid directly accuses the mysterious killer of spreading these rumors on purpose to cause this chaos throughout the school. Accepting the trap set against them, our MC understands that trying to flee would only make all the students chase after them. With their identities revealed and students frantically advancing down the hall, a quick action becomes necessary. Holding a small coin between his fingers, the ex-assassin calmly suggests they take a drastic and very bold action. In a brutal and extremely fast move, the kid flicks the coin, launching the metal as if it were a cannonball. The small metal object hits the large glass window of the hallway with overwhelming and utterly deadly force. With the extremely violent impact, the glass shatters completely, sending sharp shards falling everywhere. The crowd of teenagers screams in pure terror at the sudden destruction, leaving even his partner shocked by the explosion. Chaos immediately erupts in the area as everyone desperately tries to back away to avoid stepping on the thousands of sharp pieces. Stunned by the physical strength demonstrated, the syndicate member can hardly believe a simple coin destroyed the entire reinforced structure. Walking slowly through the blocked path, the redhead observes the scattered shards on the school floor and perfectly understands the plan. The scattered pieces of glass form a dense barrier of sharp traps, completely preventing the crowd's careless pursuit. The school bell rings loudly all of a sudden, and the teacher hurriedly orders all the gossips back to their respective classrooms. The woman mutters irritably that she'll call the cleaning crew and says goodbye to the student before going to handle the mess on the floor. His partner admits with relief that the tactic stopped the students from getting closer, but tensely points out that the real danger is still there. Showing no sign of being shaken by all the madness, our MC states very calmly that he has finally understood the whole setup. Staring down the hallway with a very sharp gaze, the ex-assassin declares with conviction that he has just discovered the enemy's true identity. Walking through the halls, the ex-assassin decides it's now his turn to attack to avoid being caught off guard again. He goes to the student guidance office, observing the room through the glass window. Inside, a teacher is calmly preparing a hot drink. Noticing the young man's arrival, the woman says she even secretly bought some sweets for them. The kid enters the room, greeting the counselor very dryly. The teacher's tone changes immediately, telling Hibari to stop pretending and hand over the apology letter. Without beating around the bush, our MC directly accuses her of being the poison master. Just then, the shards from the shattered window in the hallway begin to fall, drawing everyone's attention. The young man explains that he took advantage of the exact blind spot created by the big commotion on the floor. Using the crowd's distraction outside, he reveals that he attacked everyone at the same time, without exception. The student explains that he launched several tiny wooden needles in a non-harmful attack. However, the real goal was to test people's reactions to being hit stealthily. He throws it in the woman's face that she was the only person in that crowd who managed to dodge the blow. The kid firmly points out that these small needles are the most basic hidden weapons of any ninja. To the warrior, that reflex proves she feared being poisoned, an attitude completely impossible for an ordinary civilian. Hibari asserts that this woman is the true mastermind behind the carnage haunting the city. Adopting a bizarre and sadistic expression, the teacher finally admits that she has been unmasked by the student. Wasting no time, the warrior brandishes his pen, prepared to slice and eliminate the enemy right then and there. The woman scoffs at the threat, thinking she no longer needs to maintain the facade of a harmless body. With that, she releases a strong purple aura, quickly activating a transformation technique in the middle of the room. Our MC is slightly startled to see the shinobi mark glowing brightly on the enemy's body. The disguise of a fragile woman begins to unravel, giving way to a completely muscular torso. The business suit rips completely, revealing the adversary's true gruesome and hulking form. The young man is very surprised to witness such an extreme physical alteration happening in front of him. Observing the monster's aggressive posture, he is absolutely certain that his suspicions were correct. The ex-assassin soon realizes he's dealing with a very veteran and experienced ninja in deadly combat. Showing off his new dark look, the villain named Mogai stretches while the kid analyzes all that bodily brutality. The killer confesses he thought his disguise was perfect, praising the student's sharp eye for discovering him. Suddenly, the intruder starts to imitate strange frog sounds, assuming an animalistic attack position on the floor. Overcome with rage at being discovered, the poison master swiftly advances on the young man. Maintaining his coolness, the warrior closely follows the enemy's every bizarre movement. The masked man charges relentlessly and attempts a brutal blow directly at the young man's face. With great agility, the student slides under his rival's arm, escaping the lethal charge unscathed. But immediately after, our MC is startled to see a dangerous surgical needle appearing out of nowhere. Using all his brute force, Mogai tries to stab the kid with the poison-filled needle in a furious downward thrust. With the failed strike, the villain sticks out a slimy tongue, wielding the syringe like a poisoned dart. Hibari does several backflips, fleeing the unpredictable reach of that sticky weapon. He realizes that fighting against that erratic style is terrible, as even a small scratch would mean certain doom. The enemy lands nimbly on top of the school desks, forcing the young man to keep his impenetrable guard up. Retracting his long tongue, the killer clicks his mouth in frustration, complaining that the kid is too good at dodging. Cutting off the annoying talk, the ex-assassin wastes no time and throws his pen at sonic speed. The impact shatters the needle, splattering the lethal liquid, and leaving the masked man completely shocked by the absurd precision. With an intimidating look, our MC comments that the object seemed to pose too great a danger. In a relaxed tone, he announces that he took the liberty of breaking the sharp object to avoid future headaches. Watching the toxin drip onto the destroyed floor, the villain groans in anger, lamenting the immense waste of such a rare resource. The poison ninja furiously explains that creating these toxins isn't like mixing common pharmacy medicine. The villain proudly explains that a single drop of that liquid instantly decimates a civilian. With enormous sadism, he says he needs to make mountains of test subjects suffer to achieve the perfect chemical mixture. Foaming with rage, the masked man screams, asking if the punk understands the amount of blood that was in that broken tube. This cold cruelty irritates the warrior to his core, who coldly asks how many lives the monster has taken in his research. Sporting a psychopathic smile, Mogai boasts of having already executed 178 targets across the country. Cruelly mocking his victims, the criminal claims he makes an absolute point of memorizing the number of his fallen test subjects. Hearing all that sadistic insanity awakens a terribly dense and dark aura around the ex-assassin in the middle of the room. Unable to contain his explosive hatred, the student shoots forward like a swift demon to shred his opponent. However, the killer says a mommy use name out loud, interrupting the attack's relentless fury in a millisecond. The warrior stops his blow mid-air, hearing the villain ask in a disgusting tone how the young lady is doing. He freezes his own body, feeling a terrible chill as he understands the lethal weight of the threat the enemy just made. Completely oblivious to this deadly situation, the young college student enjoys the calm evening air in the comfort of her home. Amami Yui stretches, doing her nightly yoga session very relaxedly while listening to music. Intensely savoring his perverse advantage, the assassin confirms he has made the girl his main hostage. The cold-blooded killer calmly reveals that his ninjutsu acts as an extremely lethal and precise remote control. With the trap set, he warns that the amphibians scattered around the house will slice up the college student at his first signal. Perversely mocking the silent desperation of his cornered prey, the villain stares at the young man, questioning his anger. Forcing the kid to surrender on his knees, the assassin threatens to end everything if the target takes just one more false step. Maintaining the sharp cruelty in his voice, the monster decrees that any suspicious movement will immediately cost the young woman her life. The masked man tilts his macabre face, smiling at the ex-assassin's tactical inferiority as he's immobilized on the floor. Sprawled on the floor like a weird creature, he proudly explains how he camouflaged the animals, waiting for the best opening. A monstrous legion of poisonous frogs emerges from the shadows, preparing to crush the target who cannot fight back. Letting out a deafening laugh that echoes off the school walls, the ninja demands total submission, telling the warrior to just accept his demise. However, our MC lifts his face with great serenity, pointing out that taking hostages is one of the most basic tactics of cowardly shinobi. Exuding a crushing electrical storm, the young man dares the villain, telling him to try and pull the trigger. The gravitational pressure of this absurd power makes the enemy's pupil retract in a pure state of paralyzing shock. The killer trembles hard, sweating coldly, and swallows the clear realization that he has provoked a cursed creature far worse than himself. Desperately trying to convince himself it's a bluff, the assassin panics, pointing his thin fingers at the imminent threat. Screaming pathetic orders like a cornered lunatic, he commands the entire horde of monsters to impale and slice up the student right there. Completely freaking out with rage, the assassin screams for the creatures to scatter the target's organs without any mercy. Showing not a shred of fear, Hibari waits as the poisonous attacks rapidly advance toward him. But the strikes only hit the empty floor, leaving the killer terrified as he realizes the target has vanished. Shaking nervously, the masked man refuses to believe it, since the student needed to protect the hostage. Seizing the perfect opening, the ex-assassin appears right behind the enemy and lands a fatal blow to his neck. The impact is so absurd it shatters the villain's mask, leaving him stammering strange sounds as he loses strength. With his chest completely torn open, Moge spits out a huge amount of blood, falling to his knees on the school floor. Immediately after, our MC quickly backs away upon noticing a very suspicious purple smoke coming from the fallen body. In the midst of that dense fog, the carcass of a giant frog falls, shattered and bloody, right onto the floor. Staring at the deceased creature, Hibari understands everything and praises his rival's skill in using a living creature as a decoy. This classic technique is used precisely for the user to escape danger by swapping places with a nearby object. It basically works as a perfect emergency exit for shinobi to avoid certain doom in combat. However, being able to perform this swap using a living being requires extremely high and delicate ninjutsu control. Hanging from the ceiling, Mogai boasts, revealing that this advanced escape is exclusive to remote, control-type ninjas. Mocking the kid below, the villain asks what the problem is and throws it in his face that the student had to move. Showing all his insanity, the killer lets out a disgusting laugh, preparing for the next step of his plan. He accuses the student of underestimating him and furiously warns that he will give the punk exactly what he wants. Wasting no time, the villain begins a rapid sequence of hand seals to activate his remote command. Screaming at the top of his lungs, Mogai orders his poisonous frogs to shred the college student once and for all. Meanwhile, at the house, the girl relaxes on the living room rug, completely surrounded by the aberrations ready to pounce. Obeying the lethal command, the monsters leap with all their might toward the young woman, distracted by her phone. But suddenly, a confident voice echoes through the room, warning that he would never let such a tragedy happen there. Appearing out of nowhere, the red-haired partner explodes into the air, activating his relentless smoke technique. In a devastating surprise attack, several of Hattori's clones slice up the amphibians before they can touch the girl. The poisonous creatures are completely massacred, falling bloody and lifeless to the living room floor. Finishing his smoke style, the agent strikes an imposing pose, while Yu holds her breath with her cheeks puffed out. Clearing the mist from the area, the redhead laments the situation and guarantees he doesn't forgive those who attack pretty women. Taking a stylish drag from his pipe, he tries to impress the college student, promising to protect her like a shadow. Analyzing the operation's success, the syndicate member reflects that the ambush went exactly as his friend predicted. Earlier, Hibari had asked his ally to stand guard at the house, leaving the redhead quite surprised by the order. In that same conversation, the ally had worriedly questioned if the warrior could handle the poison master. With complete tranquility, our MC assured him he would handle it and focused on the bizarre precision of the amphibians. He deduced there was a high chance the enemy was a specialist in remote control and distraction tactics. Knowing this type of coward, the kid concluded that the killer would attack 2 places at once using the hostage. Back in the present, the raidhead reports over the radio that the college student is safe and asks about the situation at the school. Observing the young woman up close, his partner is captivated and admits she's even more beautiful in person. Seeing the girl sweaty from her workout, Hattori is green with envy, thinking his friend is so lucky to live with her. Biting his own pipe in pure frustration, the agent fumes with anger over this romantic detail. Cutting back to the school, Hibari coldly informs the masked man that his cowardly hostage strategy was a failure. Hearing this makes the villain's veins pop with pure hatred as he realizes he's lost his only major advantage in the fight. Completely serene and radiating power, the student throws it in his face that the assassin's planning was very naive. Consumed by blind fury, Mogai tells the punk to shut up and launches an attack with several slimy tongues, but our MC easily deflects the swift blows, quickly cutting the extensions in mid-air. Staring firmly at the monster, the young man warns that he's already memorized that trick and asks if he has anything new. In an explosive and surprising advance, the ex-assassin lands a brutal kick, caving in the villain's head without mercy. The heavy blow smashes the assassin's body against the hallway ceiling, causing the glass to crack on impact. Landing with his blue aura radiating strongly, Hibari confesses that he and the college student aren't even that close. The young man's mind travels back to the beginning of the day, when he was leaving for school and the girl was waking up, yawning. Brushing her teeth in her pajamas, Yui asked the student to buy some skim milk on his way back. With a very gentle look, the girl asked him to come back early and not to be late, because she would be worried. Back in the battle, the villain recovers from the damage, hanging on the wall and spitting blood, feeling the intense pain. Preparing his lethal pen, the ex-assassin admits it was the first time in his life someone had worried about him. The memory of his friend's warm expression echoes in the warrior's mind, bringing a completely new sensation. He confesses that feeling this genuine concern wasn't bad at all, and that it softened his lonely heart. Desperate with the crushing pressure, the killer screams for the punk to stop advancing. Ignoring the enemy's panic, our MC states with a focused gaze that he has already made his decision. Enveloped in a whirlwind of energy, the young man charges like a lightning bolt, determined to end the fight to buy the milk. Observing the furious charge, the masked man sports a disgusting and sadistic expression, waiting for the perfect moment. Suddenly, Hibari's eyes widen, and he stops his lethal punch inches from the terrifying monster's face. Completely paralyzed and sweating coldly, the young man realizes in shock that his body has been poisoned without any warning. Mocking the sudden paralysis, Mogai laughs bizarrely and asks if the kid didn't understand what happened. The assassin brings his macabre face very close to the motionless student, offering to draw him a picture. Full of pride and mockery, the villain recalls being called knave and asks who the pathetic scum is now. Displaying a scorpion tattoo on his chest, the monster decrees that the true art of his poison begins here. Far away in the apartment, Yui watches the late afternoon through the window, complaining that she can't have her protein. Bathed in the sunset light, the college student just hopes her friend hurries up and comes home soon.